At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a man named Nels Coxman. Nels has a wife named Grace and a son named Kyle. It is known that Nels works as a snow cleaner in the city of Kehoe, while Kyle, his son, works at the airport in the city. Nels also looks very fond of Kyle, who is his only child. The next day, Nels attended an event held by his company. Here, Nels received an award as the most exemplary person in his workplace. At the same time, it turned out that Kyle couldn't come to accompany Nels because he was also busy working. After his work was done, Kyle was suddenly shot at and grabbed by two unknown people. Then they took Kyle into a car. In the car, Kyle still didn't understand what he had done wrong. There was also a friend of Kyle named Dante, who was also being held captive. Then the two strangers injected liquid into Kyle, which instantly made him unconscious. Seeing this, Dante tried to release the ropes that bound him until Dante could escape. In the morning, the two men took Kyle to the park. They sat him on a lawn chair and put him in sunglasses to make it look like he was only sitting down. After they left, it turned out that Kyle had died because the liquid injected yesterday. Shortly after, Grace ran up to Nels, who was at work. Then Grace said that the hospital had just contacted her and informed her that Kyle, their son, had died. Hearing this, Nels was very shocked, then hurried to go to the hospital. Arriving there, Nels still couldn't believe that the son he loved so much was now gone. Here the doctor explains Kyle's death due to taking too many drugs until Kyle overdosed. Nels, who knows his son's personality very well, certainly doesn't believe that Kyle died from consuming illegal drug. A few days after that, Nels was seen going to his weapon room. He was still very depressed over Kyle's death. He felt that he had failed as a father. Even now he thinks that he will end his life with his weapon. But suddenly Dante came, then prevented him. Dante, who felt guilty for Kyle's death, he apologized, then told him everything. Previously, Dante had stolen a bag of drugs. Then he was caught by two people yesterday. While being interrogated, Dante was so scared then that he blamed Kyle, who was there. Dante told them that Kyle was the one who ordered him, even though Kyle knew nothing about the drugs. That's why Kyle was caught. Then they finished him off by injecting as many drugs as possible so that Kyle overdosed. Meanwhile, Dante managed to escape, then hid in this warehouse. Hearing this, Nels immediately got angry and strangled Dante. Nels asked who the person was killed Kyle. Dante replied the person named Speedo. After getting this information, Nels immediately went to a club that was often used to deal in illegal stuff. Arriving there, Nels entered, then pretended to be buying the drugs to Speedo. Until Nels was brought by one of Speedo's men to meet him. After meeting, Nels immediately beat him to a pulp. After Speedo was dying, Nels took him to the car for interrogation. Here Nels said that he was the father of the man Speedo had killed yesterday. Terrifying, Speedo said that he was only ordered by someone named Limbo. After knowing that information, Nels immediately finished him. Then Nels threw Speedo's body into the river near Nels' house. The scene moves to someone named Trevor. This is the person. We are told that Trevor is the big boss of all those who do drug business in this city. He is seen taking his son to school. On the way, Trevor gets news that one of his men, Speedo, is now dead, but he didn't seem to think too much about the news. Back to Nels, when he arrived home, he saw Grace, his wife, who was still depressed due to Kyle's death. Then Nels goes to the warehouse, then prepares weapons to finish off Limbo, the person who ordered Speedo to kill his son. After preparing everything, Nels went to a boutique selling dresses. It turns out that the owner of the boutique is Limbo. Then Nels pretended to be buying a dress for his wife. Limbo, who already had a bad feeling, immediately took a gun under the table to shoot Nels. But unfortunately, before Limbo shot, Nels beat him first. Nels tortured Limbo until he surrendered. Then Nels asked if it was true that Speedo was Limbo's man. Limbo, who was scared, said that he was also ordered by someone named Santa, who lived near the airport. After getting that information, Nels without hesitation immediately finished him. On the other hand, Trevor was shown arguing with his ex-wife. It is known that this is due to the struggle for custody of their son. Here, Trevor says that he will do everything possible so that his child's custody is in Trevor's hands. That means Trevor really wants and loves his child. Moving on to Nels, he was seen going near the airport to look for Santa. Once there, Nels saw Santa leaving by car. Nels followed him in a snow car. Then Nels cut the road so that he could stop Santa's car. After successfully stopping him, Nels immediately approached him. Santa thought that Nels was going to extort money, so he gave Nels money. But Nels quickly beat Santa up. Nels dropped Santa from the car. Then he beat him up again. After beating Santa, Nels pointed a gun while asking if it was true that you were the one who told Limbo to kill Kyle. Santa, who was already dying, he also said that the mastermind behind all this was Trevor. Then, without thinking, Nels immediately finished him. After that, Nels went to his best friend named Brock Coxman, or Wingman. Nels went to Brock because Nels knew that Brock used to work for Trevor's father. At that time, Nels asked how to finish off Trevor. Brock replied that there was no way Nels could finish off Trevor because Trevor had many troops and his guard was very tight. Here, Brock advises Nels to hire a hitman instead. On the other hand, Trevor gets the news that 3 of his men are now dead. Hearing this, Trevor is now angry and thinks that his 3 men were killed by his illegal business rival named White Bull. It is known that in this city there are 2 big cities mafia. That is Trevor and also White Bull. The western region is controlled by Trevor, while the eastern part is controlled by White Bull. Here, Trevor ordered some of his men to kidnap White Bull's only son. Long story short, Trevor's men could take White Bull's son. Then, to replace his 3 dead men, Trevor thoughtlessly killed White Bull's son. After that, Trevor hung the body of White Bull's son on the side of the road. Trevor did this in retaliation for White Bull, who was considered to have killed 3 of his men, and so that White Bull would no longer dare to make a trouble with him. A few days later, here comes White Bull, who finds out that his son has been killed by Trevor. White Bull, who felt that he had no trouble with Trevor, wondered why Trevor had killed his son. Here he will immediately take revenge on Trevor. Back to Nels, he is now with a hitman named Leighton, who was suggested by Brock. Nels talks to the hitman using his last name, Coxman. Then Nels paid him to immediately finish off Trevor. Not long after that, the hitman came to Trevor, but it turns out that the hitman is one of Trevor's men. He also told Trevor that he was ordered by someone named Coxman to finish off Trevor. After knowing this, Trevor remembered someone named Brock Coxman, who used to work with his father. Trevor went to Brock because he thought it was Brock Coxman who had ordered the hitman to kill him. Then Trevor took Brock somewhere, pretend that he would give him a job. But on the way, Trevor's men immediately killed Brock. Long story short, Brock was buried. Nels, who was at the tomb, realized that it was Trevor who had killed Brock. After finishing off Brock, Trevor now intends to apologize to White Bull for killing his son. Trevor thought it wasn't White Bull who killed his 3 men, but Brock. But Trevor's men advised him not to apologize because it would be useless. Sadistically, Trevor instead shot his men dead. This was done because Trevor considered that his men were disrespectful and had dared to give him advice. After that, Trevor ordered his other men to give the head of the person who had just been killed to White Bull. Trevor's intention was to give the man's head in exchange for the death of White Bull's son. Not long after that, one of Trevor's men came to White Bull's headquarters to deliver the man's head. Trevor's men said that this was an apology from Trevor for the death of White Bull's son. But White Bull replied that children must be paid with children. Then White Bull finished off the man. Moving on to Nels, Nels finally secretly went to Trevor's house to find a way to finish him off. From afar, Nels saw several people guarding Trevor's house. Then Nels saw that the window glass of Trevor's house had a school address sticker. Here Nels just found out that Trevor actually has children who are still in school, and he can use it to take revenge. The scene moves to the school. There, White Bull's men are seen who will kidnap Trevor's son, but unfortunately, they were preceded by Nels. Nels took Trevor's son away in a van. White Bull's men who saw this, they immediately chased him. Behind that, Trevor, who knew his son had been kidnapped, brought the school guard to his house to ask about the chronology of the incident. The The school guard said that Trevor's son was taken by a man using a van. Incidentally, he recognized and knew the man was, that is, Nels Coxman. Here it was finally knew that Nels Coxman was a former Special Forces officer who now worked as a snow cleaner. Hearing this, Trevor finally realized that the one who had killed 3 of his men and kidnapped his son was not White Bull or Brock Coxman, but Nels Coxman. Here Trevor and his troops rushed to Nels' residence. It seems that Nels is also ready for their arrival, but when he wanted to shoot Trevor, Nels was first held at gunpoint by Trevor's troops. When Nels wanted to be finished off, suddenly the White Bull group came to attack Trevor's group, until the shootout ensued. Seeing many of his troops fall, Trevor tried to escape by car, but Nels immediately prevented him by crashing his snow car into Trevor's. Then Trevor tried to escape again using another car, but Nels again prevented him by using a tractor. And Nels then smashed a tree trunk right on top of Trevor's car. The tree made Trevor's car unable to move. Then White Bull came from the front and shot Trevor dead. Thinking all his revenge had been avenged, Nels left on a snowblower, but suddenly White Bull came from outside pointing a gun. Fortunately, White Bull was only asking Nels for a ride. Finally, they left together. With the 2-man revenge had been avenged, the movie ended.